Please don't hear this if you don't want to spoil the movie. I just share this because they already show us everything in the TV spot videos and make a garbage so. Kung Fu Panda 4 full movie plot. The movie begins with Po saving children swallowed up by a giant stingray. He then attends the opening ceremony for Mr. Ping's new noodle and tofu restaurant. Someone asks why the Furious Five aren't at the ceremony, and Po explains that they each went on their own missions. The missions aren't serious or consequential, some are rather humorous, like Mantis's mission being to avoid getting beheaded by his wife. Shifu takes Po to the Jade Palace and tells Po that being the Dragon Warrior is not just about kicking butt and attending restaurant promotions. Po must now choose a successor to be the next Dragon Warrior. Po will then mentor them as the next leader of wisdom like Ogway once was. Po tells Shifu that he likes the way things are, him solving problems by defeating villains as the Dragon Warrior. He doesn't want things to change, as he can't see himself being a wise leader like Ogway who uses wisdom to solve problems instead of just using Kung Fu. Meanwhile, in another city, the Chameleon comes over and takes the form of Tai Lung, laying waste to the city and demanding to know where the Dragon Warrior is. She explains that while she can take the appearance of previous masters like Tai Lung, she does not possess their Kung Fu skills. Therefore, she wants Po's Staff of Wisdom, so she can go to the spirit realm and take the Kung Fu powers of all the masters that came before her. Back in the Jade Palace, 5 people try out as the Dragon Warrior, but none of them seem to be a good fit. Afterwards, Zhen tries to steal artifacts from the Jade Palace, but Po stops and apprehends her. As Zhen is being carried off to jail, a ram from the city Chameleon attacked comes over, telling Po that Tai Lung has returned. Zhen tells Po that it's likely this is the Chameleon, the sorceress from Juniper City, taking the form of Tai Lung. Because Zhen is also from Juniper City, Po asks Zhen to help him find the Chameleon in exchange for a reduced sentence. Zhen agrees. Shifu tells Po that this is a bad idea, since he is trusting Zhen, a thief. He also tells Po that he should use wisdom, rather than Kung Fu, to try to solve the problem of the Chameleon. Po doesn't take Shifu's advice, deciding he wants to defeat the Chameleon himself instead of training a successor to do it. Po and Zhen visit a tavern run by bandits. As Po looks for someone who can take them to Juniper City, Zhen wins a ton of money playing mahjong with other bandits, and uses it to pay for a lavish meal for Po. Unfortunately, some mahjong pieces fall out of Zhen's tail, and the tavern owner realizes Zhen won at mahjong by cheating. A bar fight ensues. As Po fights the bandits, Zhen pickpockets money from the bandits. Po tells her to stop, since stealing is wrong, and returns the money. The two go on a boat to Juniper City. Meanwhile, back in the Village of Peace, Mr. Ping and Li Shan are worried about Po's safety, and whether he can defeat a sorceress like the Chameleon. They decide to secretly go to Juniper City as well, to make sure their son will be safe. In Juniper City, the Chameleon meets the largest crime bosses, who give her the 50% tribute she usually demands. The Chameleon decides it's not enough, and now demands for a 60% tribute. One of the crime bosses refuses, only for him to get defeated by the Chameleon after she takes the form of Master Elephant. The crime bosses apologize for speaking back against the Chameleon, and promise her a 60% tribute. They go around the city extorting money from the locals to meet this tribute, showing how Juniper City is rampant with crime. Once, Po and Zhen arrive in Juniper City, Po is in awe of how big the city is, how much foot traffic there is, and how amazing the food is. Zhen is a wanted criminal and gets apprehended by the police, so she and Po run away. They hide in a Chinese drum set Zhen uses as an entrance into a secret tunnel system. They take the secret tunnel system to the den of thieves, and Zhen assures Po that she is one of them, and will be allowed to stay here for the night. Once they arrive, the leader, Han, immediately tries to capture Zhen so he can get a reward for turning her in. It becomes clear that Zhen is not actually on good terms with the Den of Thieves. Po decides to use his wisdom, and instead of fighting Han, he convinces him into letting Zhen go by reasoning that it will be easier for the Den of Thieves to survive once Po and Zhen get rid of the Chameleon, the ultimate crime boss of Juniper City. On their way to the Chameleon's palace, Zhen thanks Po for saving her all those times she was in trouble. She thinks Po only did that so he could get something out of her later, but Po assures Zhen that there are still people in the world who do the right thing without expectation of reward. He tells Zhen she should consider coming to the Jade Palace to become a Kung Fu master. Once they arrive at the Chameleon's palace, the Chameleon explains that she once wanted to learn Kung Fu, but was turned down because of her small size. This made her turn to sorcery instead, allowing her to shapeshift into different Kung Fu masters. She traps Po in a special cage that absorbs the sea from any attack that allows him to escape. Zhen takes Po's staff of wisdom and hands it to the Chameleon, betraying Po and revealing she was working for the Chameleon the whole time. A flashback shows that Zhen was once an orphan relying on petty theft to survive. One day, the Chameleon traveled down Juniper City. Everyone, including the Den of Thieves, bows to her and offer tribute. The only one who doesn't bow is Zhen, who is fearless and doesn't back down. Chameleon admires her bravery, and decides to take Zhen from the Den of Thieves to train her as her student. The Chameleon uses the Staff of Wisdom to open a gate to the spirit realm, where she first brings Tai Lung back to the mortal realm. She uses sorcery to absorb his Kung Fu powers, and then traps in the special sea-absorbing cage. She then uses her new Tai Lung powers to blast Po out of the temple. Po would have died by falling a great height, but luckily missed her. Ping and Li Shen followed Po and were able to break his fall. Po is frustrated that he trusted Zhen, only to be betrayed. Po is also frustrated that he didn't take Shifu's advice and decided to try to take on the Chameleon himself, as it ultimately led to her being able to take his Staff of Wisdom. Mr. Ping and Li Shen comfort Po, but tell him that it's too dangerous to face the Chameleon. Po tells his parents that he still has to try anyway, even if he might lose. Back at the Chameleon's palace, Zhen is worried about Po, telling the Chameleon that the original plan was just to steal his staff, not hurt him. The Chameleon tells Zhen to stop being emotional, as thieves should only care about one thing: getting what they want. The Chameleon warns Zhen that she only keeps her around because she is useful to her, and if Zhen continues to doubt the Chameleon's actions, she will destroy her too. Zhen realizes working for the Chameleon was a mistake, and runs away. She crosses paths with Mr. Ping and Li Shan, who are worried about how Po can defeat the Chameleon when she commands an entire army and possesses the Kung Fu of all the previous masters. Zhen takes them to the Den of Thieves, and appeals to their leader Han, saying that if they all work together, they can take down the Chameleon's army so Po can fight the Chameleon. The Den of Thieves agrees, and they take on the Chameleon's army. Zhen and Po meet at the Chameleon's temple, where Zhen asks Po for forgiveness, saying she wants to change and become a better person. And then Zhen hugs Po. Po forgives her, tells her he wants to change become someone who uses wisdom, not just Kung Fu, to solve his problems. The two agree to fight together to take down the Chameleon. Once they enter the temple, they see the Chameleon taking all the masters out of the spirit realm, absorbing their Kung Fu skills, and then leaving them in the sea-absorbing cages. Tai Lung, stuck in a sea-absorbing cage, tells Po that he always knew it was a mistake for Ogway to choose Po as the Dragon Warrior. However, he didn't know just how much of a mistake it was, because Po was the one who messed up, lost the Staff of Wisdom to Chameleon, which allowed her to absorb all the Kung Fu powers from the spirit realm. The Chameleon rapidly shifts from one form to the next as she fights Po and Zhen, before taking on a form where she manifests all the Masters' powers at once in a chimera form. She then takes the form of Po and fights in a 1vs1 against Po, trapping him in the sea-absorbing cage. However, Zhen reveals that while the Chameleon was fighting Po, she was able to take his Staff of Wisdom back. She tries using the Staff of Wisdom to land a Kai attack on the Chameleon, but it isn't enough to defeat her. Po surprises Zhen by revealing he was able to pull himself out of the sea-absorbing cage the whole time, but stayed because he wanted to give Zhen the chance to challenge herself and try to fight the Chameleon. Po tells Zhen it's okay she wasn't able to get the staff's attack right the first time, and takes the staff and lands a finishing skadoosh to defeat the Chameleon. All the Kung Fu powers return to the Masters, who then get out of their sea-absorbing cages. Tai Lung tells Po that after seeing him defeat the Chameleon, he realizes that Ogway was right to choose Po as the Dragon Warrior. He bows to Po, and the rest of the Masters do so as well. The Masters return to the spirit realm, including Tai Lung, who takes the Chameleon with him. Po and Zhen return to the Valley of Peace, where Po tells Shifu he has chosen Zhen to become the next Dragon Warrior. Shifu is perplexed as to what Po sees in her, but Po tells Zhen that eventually Shifu grow to accept her, alluding to how Shifu once doubted why Ogway chose Po as the Dragon Warrior. Shifu meditates next to the peach tree, revealing that a new peach tree sapling has emerged from the soil. The film ends with Po and the Furious Five in non-speaking appearances, helping Zhen start her Kung Fu training. I'm so upset because Furious 5 is not taking any important roles in this movie. What do you think? Is it okay to make Kung Fu Panda 4 without Furious 5? And what do you think? Is really Zhen became a Dragon Warrior in the next Kung Fu Panda 5 movie? Well, thank you for watching. Like, share,